What is up, you guys? This is your boy Andy Matrix. I talk about anime, manga, video games, geek culture, and Japanese culture. So, today we're gonna talk about why some Japanese companies, some Japanese entertainment companies to be exact, ignore the global market. Okay, and I found out through another YouTube channel, through some research of my own, and actually some personal experience because a couple of years ago, way before the pandemic, I actually had a podcast with a friend, and we actually interviewed a lady, somebody that lives in Japan, and this person would promote Japanese rock bands. Yes, I've actually met somebody who promotes Japanese rock bands in Japan, and we would communicate, of course, through Skype and things like that on the internet. And I used to have this online radio show, quote unquote online radio show podcast, a live podcast, I dare say, called Anime and Comics Fandomania. You guys can look at it, look for it on Stitch for the podcast episodes. But this really made me think that there's a reason why the Japanese entertainment they always think of the Western audience last. We are the last people that they think about. So I'm going to explain to you why. So let's go ahead and let's get into it.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
All right, so Japan has a huge population of 120 million people, so there is lots of money to be made. Yes, I know, the population in Japan is actually going down, and that is very true. But, 120 million people is basically, that's what, 1/3 of the population of America. So it's pretty huge, right? So a lot of companies, they actually make a lot of money within the country, millions of dollars, sometimes even billions within the country, because the population is just so huge, and there's a lot of traveling within the country itself, kind of like America. In America, you have 50 states, 350 million people. So, there's people that travel within the country a lot, visiting places like the Grand Canyon and places, landmarks around the country. So, it's the same in Japan with their population. So, some companies, they feel a little comfortable and they don't really think outside. They might think about Korea and China, but they don't necessarily think about the Western audience, right? Let's just put it that way. Okay? So, industries such as anime, manga, video games are actually self-sustainable in Japan because they have lots of Japanese consumers, millions of Japanese consumers, right? Despite of the fact that they have an aging population, video games, especially mobile games in Japan, they still make a lot of money, right? Nintendo is always killing it in Japan, with sales, right? Sony used to kill it in Japan until they started, they left Japan. Sony is no longer a Japanese company, no matter what people say. It might be run by some Japanese, but it's no longer a Japanese company because of the way that they've been managing it, right? So Sony is one of those companies that say, you know what? Screw it. We're leaving Japan. We're going to become an American company, and we're going to go after the global market, right? Not a lot of Japanese companies do that. Like Nintendo. Nintendo is Japanese first and then the global market, right? Because they still want to make money. But, the Japanese come first. That might change in the future, though. So, think about it. Think about Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer sold 100 million copies. Guys, 100 million copies. That's crazy to think about. 100 million copies. Tell me of one comic book title. One comic book title that has sold that many copies within a year or 2 years. Right? Within 1 or 2 years. Because that's basically how Demon Slayer did it. Okay? No American comic book has ever sold that many copies. Okay? So that is why Japan is very self-sustainable with its entertainment. Demon Slayer selling 100 million copies. Anime actually does really well. I think like 30% of the population in Japan actually watches anime. Of course, there are the people that think that you're freaking weird if you watch anime. Yes, there in Japan, there are Japanese people that don't like otakus. There's Japanese people that don't like anime and manga. I know, right? It's hard to believe, isn't it? But yes, they do exist. You know, not all Japanese people like anime. You know, the same way that not all American people like, you know, I don't know, baseball, football, and whatever other American things are out there. Okay? So, you could say that a lot of Japanese entertainment companies are actually very comfortable in Japan, and they don't really think about, you know, going outside of the country much, because it's just very comfortable, and they make a lot of money, so it's like, why leave, right? But at the same time, they kind of suffer and miss out on opportunities, you know? Like, one of the reasons why, you know, Korean pop music is beating the crap out of Japanese pop music is because Koreans went after the global market, because their population is only 45 million compared to Japan, which is 120 million people, right? Right, so Korea was smart, you know, going global actually helped out their economy, right? But it's not just music, you know, it's not just music. Korea is also beating Japan in technology with companies such as Samsung, for the simple fact that the company went global, right?
It's actually, I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
Also, you do have to keep in mind that Japanese people are not very interested in the global market, you know? I've talked about this before. And by the way, if you are Japanese and you're watching this, please do not get insulted. I don't mean to insult you. This is based on my research and what other Japanese people have told me. Yes, other Japanese people have actually told me this. You know, I talked about the Tokugawa era, where Japan was isolated for 200 years, right? And it wasn't until the 1800s when the Americans came and said, "Hey, open up your country for trade, otherwise we're gonna attack," right? Yeah, there's that. But anyways, so Japan is now, so many Japanese are not very interested in the global market, because remember, like, most Japanese people have never left Japan. Okay, only 20% of Japanese people have actually traveled outside of the country. Right, despite of the fact that Japan is a very rich country, many Japanese actually don't leave the country. It's funny how that works, right? At least for them. Now, if you want to find out more about this, I recommend the YouTube channel Ask Shogo. He's a really cool guy. He's a Japanese man himself, and you can learn more about this in his channel, about the Japanese culture, Japanese businesses, and so on. Anyways, guys, that is all for this video. If you like what I had to say, make sure to like the video, make sure to comment below and tell me what you think. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and I'm gonna keep covering more things about Japan. And also, if you like to travel to Japan, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna be updating people on, you know, on the travel updates, travel restrictions until Japan opens. So stay up to date and subscribe to the channel. This is your boy and the Matrix. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Godspeed.